If I had been informed about co-cultural theories several years earlier from today, I would not have believed it would have had an effect on my life. However, as I've gotten older, I can now see how this theory and several other concepts relate to my life. My story relates to co-cultural theory, which is the theory covered in our textbook, A First Look at Communication Theory. This speech is meant to discuss co-cultural theory, alienation, and how co-cultural theory has played a part in my upbringing and perhaps the upbringings of others. I will begin by telling you about my personal experiences, then go on to demonstrate how this relates to the theories I have mentioned. First, I need to explain the event that led to me thinking more deeply about this theory. The event that happened. Miscommunication in the family isn't anything new, it's normal actually. My mother and I have never had many serious conversations, but recently we had a conversation about how different our upbringings were. I had never mentioned anything like this before to her. This was both new to us. She came from Pakistan, where she was part of the dominant culture, while I was born in the US, technically a part of a co-culture. Now, a co-culture, related to a dominant culture, a co-culture is a generally smaller culture in comparison to the dominant culture, which would be the majority. And co-cultures tend to be developed differently and have different ways of receiving information, as according to Griffin et al. 2023. Now, some questions I have with the theory is, why did we have different views and self-perceptions as children? And has co-cultural theory affected my upbringing? Next, I'd like to explain the theory itself. It's beneficial to look deeper into our day-to-day conversations to better understand ourselves and others. Now, one way to address this sort of situation and to explain how our conversation did lead to benefits, I want to analyze the theory itself, and I want to gain a better understanding of the people in my life. Now, the theorist for co-cultural theory is Mark Orb, who said to found the theory in 1996. There's another theorist who has written with Orb, but this was in 2018, R.J. Rezante. Now, a relevant theory is firstly how co-cultures compare to dominant cultures in a society, which is also referenced in our textbook, and differing methods of communication based off co-cultures and dominant cultures. In order to understand our interaction better, I'm going to analyze what happened. You might be wondering how this theory is relevant to this interaction. My mother was from a dominant culture while I was not. We both had different perceptions of self growing up. I was insecure about my ethnicity and appearance. She felt otherwise. She was more at peace with it. Did our different upbringings affect our self-perception? Is a question I would like to answer. Generally, self-esteem-wise, there was a very distinct difference. We should all try to be positive, to be open and honest when discussing co-cultural theory, in order for our points to be heard. It's good for all of us to practice positive communication more often. Now, several methods would include honesty and clear communication, such as being open with your loved ones. Even if you find that your problem may not be that severe to you, it could be severe to others, and it could be severe in a way that you're not fully acknowledging. Another communication practice would be to avoid bias. Don't assume you know better than a person who is discussing their experiences. You haven't lived in their shoes. A third positive communication is you don't really need to focus on finding a direct solution. You should focus more in the conversation on listening. Just try to understand what the other person is saying. Show sensitivity to the feelings and experiences of others. That's often appreciated. Now, what can we get out of all of this? And what have I noticed and learned? Obviously, according to Rezante and Orb 2018, people are received differently. This can also affect self-esteem. In the end, we can't change the entire world with a few conversations, but it's a start. This speech is meant to discuss co-cultural theory along with alienation and how co-cultural theory has played a part in my upbringing. Co-cultural theory may have a bigger impact in your life and your loved ones' lives than you might think. I know that this speech was a bit lacking. I intend to add more facts and work on cohesion the more I work on it. It is a very much work in progress. My apologies.